Otherwise, we got a problem.
What's up, people of YouTube? My name is Creator, alongside with my co-host Guns. Welcome to Gun Nation United, and as you could probably tell from the title of the video, excuse me one second, sorry, make sure you crack open a beer. We are going to go over Nightmares from Geass. So, before we get started, everybody crack open your beer as I just did, take a sip of it, enjoy that Southern Crap beer, Natty Light, and let's get started. So, if you've seen the other videos, the Ruby videos, then you kind of know how this is set up. So I'm going to go over real life, and Guns right here is going to go into anime. So Guns, whenever you're ready.
Well, the Nightmares from Code Geass, were first introduced by the Holy Britannian Empire during the invasion of Japan. And there's been quite a number of generations, basically improvements. Some generic, some over the top. The Nightmares replaced the battle tank. And even though it replaced the battle tank, they still use tanks sometimes. And the power source of the Nightmares is Sakuradite. I'm saying that because I'm not going to try and pronounce what it's actually called.
Yeah, we don't speak Japanese, in case you guys wonder.
Yeah. Basically, it's Sakuradite. And it powers them. And the Nightmares are humanoid mechs. Some are for ground offensives, and some are for air and ground attacks. Basically, they can go across the ground, and they can fly. So, yeah.
So how do they actually work in the anime? Pilot gets in and then walk me through it.
Well, the pilot gets into the cockpit, which is usually on the back of the Nightmare, and it sticks out like a sore thumb.
It does, yeah.
And they got controls, they got the interface. Some cockpits are basically fan service cockpits, so let's be honest.
C2.
C2 and
Collins? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, they really get on those controls, really
Yeah.
So. Gotcha. So it's like, would you say it's fair? It's just a more advanced version of something like a fighter jet.
Between a fighter jet and a tank,
Gotcha.
to where it can fly like a jet,
Hmm.
but it has armor like a tank.
Gotcha. Can you go a little bit more in depth of the actual functions of it? You know, such as like how it works and the weapons and stuff like that.
Well, it varies from
I know,
nightmare to
but
night.
can you just give me like a general synopsis?
We usually have a, the machine guns on them. They actually make actual guns like soldiers use, just humongous for said nightmares. But they
Right.
also have some have guns built into the nightmares. And some actually don't even use guns. Some use swords. So
Okay. Can you run me? You mentioned earlier the different generations. Could you just give me again? You can go as much in depth as you want, but just like a quick synopsis on maybe the most popular generations and in general, what you know, a summary of what each one improved on to the current one, like where they started versus where they are now in the show.
yeah, uh, there's total of 9 generations, and of course, the first generation was infancy stage, and the infancy stage is pretty much what it is. It's the beginning of what it will eventually turn into.
Mm-hmm.
Just like during the First World War, how the airplanes turned into an air force. They had airplanes, but they were pretty much scattered around.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't it wasn't used as it should have been.
Yeah, no. And if I
And
my memory recalls me, that was September 18th, 1947, when the Air Force became a branch.
yeah, but when the Air Force officially became a branch, yeah,
Yeah.
or at least in the U.S. military, we're going off the U.S. military, not any other military. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
of course, the Germans had their uh, Air Force,
Hmm.
but I think it was connected to the Army, and the
Yeah.
British
Well.
had them.
Yeah. Well, that's how ours was too. And like I said, after World War, it's getting off subject a little bit. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Guns, but just quickly, if we're just getting off topic, it was part of the army, and then after World War II, and like I said, September 18th, 1947, they became their own branch. Uh, and then, a lot of people think that Air Force is just like every person in Air Force flies, but no. Think about it like me and you have a mutual, person that's in the Navy or whatever, and the way the Navy is they're all about their ships. So everything revolves around the ships. Where the Air Force, everything revolves around the planes. And so you have, storage people for stuff for planes, maintenance. You have people that secure the planes and everything else. So, like I said, just
Yeah.
getting off topic here a little bit, but just since we were talking about it, just throw my 2 cents in there.
Um. Anyways, that was the first the infancy stage.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was the second age, which was the turning point, which basically it got a few upgrades, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
It became less of a reconnaissance to small battles to having more power in the battle and a battle even against tanks.
Right.
So, and that's during the second age is when it got its name, Nightmare. So,
Where'd it come from? Like the name.
uh, the Nightmare came from the word night, not the time of day night, but like a medieval night.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how it got. That's how it got its name. Because
Gotcha.
usually the pilots of those are knights. So,
Right.
and then there after that it was the third age, which is called the archetype, which of course became more combat effective. Like it didn't use like oil or anything like that to run. Of course, like maintenance, yes, but it started using uh Socradite to perform.
Right. Remember, people, he said Socradite, not Sakura. So let's just be
I mean, her
clear on
name's
that.
in there.
Yeah.
It's Sakura and Dite.
Yeah. They what they did was they went to Naruto and they captured the most useless character because she wasn't doing shit anyway, and then they just used up all her chakra. Long story short.
Yeah. Yeah.
So. Oh, shit. She went. Well, we already did. In case you guys didn't know, we did a video last week on that on Geass, versus Naruto. So go check that one out. But yeah,
Yeah. And after the third, there's the fourth, which is basically when the nightmares got their guns.
gun power.
Like they had carry guns on there, like 50 cals and stuff like that, but
Mm-hmm.
they didn't have their own guns.
Right.
So, and those
Are
weapons
we?
were mass produced like crazy for
Oh, I'm sure. So are we talking
them.
about like just guns, or are we talking about guns and missiles as well?
Guns and missiles.
Gotcha.
Some had guns, some had missiles. So I think it was more our battlefield, uh, what the battlefield called for.
Right.
So
Basically flying over and blowing up shit. Got it.
they hadn't started flying in the fourth one yet. On the fourth
Oh no.
age, no.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. So they were still ground mobilized.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and then there was the fifth age, which is called evolution, and with the nightmares success against conventional weapons like tanks, RPGs, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They became like on the battlefield. They're like uh, everyone wants one base on their
Yeah.
side.
Right.
So
Yep. Evolution kind of
and
changed everything worldwide wise.
yeah, but at this point, during the fifth age, other enemy nations started making or
Mm-hmm.
stealing them. You know,
Right.
so during this fifth age, they put improvements to help fight that,
Right.
to give them an edge over what they had just previously built.
Right. Smart move. Smart move.
Yeah. And then there was the sixth and seventh age are more or less the same, except, there were custom nightmares out there
Mm-hmm.
instead of uh generic ones.
Right.
So and of course this is when the Lancelot it made its mark during the
Of
sixth and seventh generations.
course. Probably the most popular nightmare out there. The one that the most fans are aware of, besides like Lelouch's and Collins and stuff like that. But overall, probably the most recognizable one, I would say.
Yeah.
So,
And during the eighth and ninth generations, again, mostly improvements, speed, and at this point, they gave the Nightmares the ability to fly. Well, more or less custom Nightmares.
right.
Got got that because it was, shush shush kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the Lancelot got it, and I believe Collins got it too towards the end of the series.
Yeah, I believe she was able to fly. Yeah, she was able to fly towards the end of the series. Um, yeah, so that's all the generations.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you have anything else you want to go over?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Um, and I'm assuming like everything else is pretty like self-explanatory as long as um, like as far as battle strategy goes, they work like a normal like infantry unit would. I'm sure on the
Yeah.
battlefield, you know.
Think infantry covered in armor and has a
Hmm.
big ass gun
Right.
that
Cool.
looks like it could be on a naval ship.
Gotcha.
That's probably what they did. They took the gun off the naval ship. It's like, do something with that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Um, Before we jump into mine, do you know like so when the pilots get in there, is it just like them getting in, or do you know if they have to have any type of like specialized like exoskeleton or armor or like headwear or anything like that for them to get in.
No, they don't need a. The only thing they would need to get in is a key, and that's it.
Gotcha.
Besides that, all you need is a key
Gotcha.
to use it.
Yeah. So just like any other vehicle, you get it. Excuse me.
Mhm.
Sorry. Excuse me.
They wouldn't have biometrics or anything like that.
Gotcha. Just from what you've seen, any thoughts on future nightmares? Like where the nightmares could go after the show, or how they could be used like later on, as far as the lore of Kogias is concerned?
I think because the nightmares order replaced the land units, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they replaced arrow units.
Mm-hmm.
So why not naval unit?
I could see that.
I wouldn't say m- more of a sub. I would say, like sort of like a destroyer or a battleship or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Probably not as big as one, but does its
Yeah.
job.
Right. Right. No, I see. I see. I could definitely see that for as far as
Because
future, is concerned.
if they could do that, they could just like mass produce it like crazy, and you can win on
Yeah.
all three fronts:
Oh yeah.
the air, land, and sea. You don't need to build like submarine aircraft carriers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess aircraft carriers would be good for transport,
Right.
but yeah, but like aircraft carriers wouldn't be like a necessity.
No. But yeah, interesting. Interesting. I didn't know all that about the nightmares. I'm just Then again, you know more about Code Geass than I do, so
Yeah.
that's why you're the perfect man for as far as explaining the in depths of that. So, do you have anything else to add before I jump
Uh,
into mine?
Everything I had pretty much said. So.
Cool. Yeah, same thing. I'm just gonna go over mine, and if you have a question about something, stop me and I'll answer it.
All right.
And same thing for you guys. If you guys have a question, write it down in the comments, and we'll answer it to the best of our abilities. Again, this is all when it comes to these videos. A lot of them you have to take into account. Your own knowledge with research and try to give the best educated answer because we're not engineers here or robotics specialists. So, but we will try. We try to make the best content we can. So, if you have any questions, speak up, guns, and write them below, and we'll try to get back to all comments as best as we can. But the reason I asked about the exoskeleton suit is because if we're talking real world, right, and we're gonna get into like weight and stuff like that in a little bit because I found two articles on this, and the articles I'm gonna go more in depth when I get to that point, but they will be linked in the description for you guys to check out yourselves. Uh, and it's just basically it's talking about Mets in general. I went more on the general side, because there's a lot of Mets that appear in media and have been going on since I would say video games from the 80s, if not before that. As far as comic books and stuff like that. But it's a very discussed topic, so we're going to get into that. So as far as I'm concerned, and I think Guns is as well, because before we started recording, we kind of talked about this. In your opinion, Guns, do you think it'd be fair to say that as far as our troops nowadays, for them to be able to do it, an exoskeleton suit would probably be needed.
It really depends how they make it.
But it is a possibility that they could need one, right?
Possibility,
Could.
yeah.
Okay.
I think
So, so again, I'm not saying that I'm not trying to say, guys, that they would need it. But if we're covering the full thing, I'm going to go in depth, fully. So if they did need it, I'm going to go over exoskeleton suits, where they are now, and kind of where I think they're heading, and then we're going to get into the actual like big robots shooting and blowing at buildings and stuff like that. So as far as exoskeleton suits are concerned, just in case they were needed to operate or handle impact or weight or whatever else, right? As far as where they are right now, developing a full body suit that meets the needs for soldiers has been proved challenging. The Defense Advanced Research Project Agency launched the Warrior Web Project in September of 2011 and has developed and funded several prototypes, including a soft exosuit developed at Harvard University's Wyss University. In 2019, the Army's Telos exoskeleton project was put on hold. We're going to get more on hold on that, but it's basically financial issues. And as far as the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, it's a mouthful, it's an agency of the United States Department of Defense responsible for development of emerging technology for the use of the military. And as far as the Telos, it stands for Tactical Assault Light Operation Suit. It was given the name to a robotics exosuit that United States Special Operations Command intended to design with the help of universities, laboratories, and technical institute. The benefit of Telos states that it must be bulletproof, weaponized, have the ability to monitor vitals, and give the wearer enhanced strength and perception. The suit would comprise layers of smart material and sensors. Suit may have not been intended for an entire squad, but for a lead operator who would breach a door first to protect them, as they are the most valuable team operator in that situation. So the reason I would think exosuits, now that we kind of talked about it, everybody kind of gets an idea in their head, and I think Guns would agree with me on this. If the nightmares were in real world, the reason I would say exosuits would be, like if I was like President Trump, right? And my head military honcho came to me and said, "Look, President Creeder," and I know Guns is back there thinking like, "Oh man, if Creeder was president, we'd be doomed." But anyway, besides the point. If I was president,
beer.
yeah, we would, but I would definitely have a beer in my hand. But getting back on the serious note, I think exosuits would be a must, just in case, because we already, in the military, they already do SEER training, survival, evasion, resistance, evasion training for military guys who are shot down behind enemy lines, like mostly pilots and stuff like that. But a lot of SOCOM units go through their training as well. We're talking Delta, we're talking Ranger, Navy SEALs, Green Berets, Pararescue. They all have to go through this training as well in case they ever get captured behind enemy lines. But if you think that for a second that if we're fighting giant robots, in my honest opinion, and maybe it wouldn't really matter, I'll let Guns have his say in it in a second, but I would think that Etso suits would be a must, especially if we're far enough into the future where we can make big, robots that could take down cities and villages and stuff like that, then how far have the exosuits come? It's kind of like, if you think about it, and I guess I'm thinking from the perspective of something like Titanfall, right? You get out your suit, you have the exosuit, you can still somewhat handle yourself, like let's say if this is 200 years from now, who knows what technology would be like. And it just makes it fair in case you would ever need, in case you got ejected, you were behind enemy lines, to get away or something. I mean, that's kind of my thinking on it, Guns. What's your opinion on all that before we dive into the actual nitty gritty?
Yeah, I agree with you that if you have to eject basically your mech or whatever that's gonna happen,
Right.
you'd want something to still be able to. So be able to compete, or get away from the battlefield. That way, you're blown to bits.
Right. But now it's time for the video. Now it's the point of the video. Let me have a sip of this Natty Light right quick. Good. So now it's the point of the video where I think we're going to get into the nitty gritty. So, again, I'll leave links for everything in the description, and if you have any other further questions on anything, please let us know. But as far as the nightmares are concerned, I found 2 articles where the journalists interviewed, some scientists that's way smarter than I'll ever be, and probably has like way more degrees than I will, ever have, in 2 lifetimes. But the first one that I'm going to talk about was written by Peter Ray Alson, and it was a BBC article, and it came out June 10th, 2016. And he's interviewing some scientist guy, about this stuff. And so we're going to get into it and kind of see what the scientist has to say. So I'm quoting from the article, and it will be linked in the description below. So one of the first questions it starts off with, and it reads as follows: one of the reasons why human form is so appealing as a vehicle is that it is a remarkable instrument design. The human anatomy is incredibly effective for climbing over rocks and walking along roads, explains Bob Beckenham, the director of race at the Curraham Science Center. Just look at a soldier who is able to carry several times his own body weight over any terrain. However, the trade-off is that walking on 2 legs requires severe dexterity, and stability can be quite hard to control. Also, how do you control something at least 10 feet tall? Professor, I'm gonna butcher this because it's a weird name, but it'll be popped up on the screen. Professor Sefu Val J. Kummer of Ed Burf Center of Robotics suggests a combination of teleoperations, like those used on Power Load in the Alien films, which automatic system reacting to pilot's instincts. There will be high-level interests coming from the operator, but a lot of the low-level control will be built into platforms such as maintaining stability when walking, says Cephew. In fact, having a human pilot biometric mech is more likely than the one that thinks for itself. This is very first ability type of technology, says Cephew. More feasible than a fully autonomous system, because full autonomous system has lots of problems in terms of sensing and contextual decision making. Just really quickly get into just to kind of give the definition for teleoperation. Teleoperation or remote operation includes operating of a system or machine at a distance. It is similar in the meaning to the phrase remote control, but is usually encountered in research, academics, or technical environments. And any military buffs out there, they actually had they do this in the military as well, where they have a robot and they use the robot in combat situations where, the most popular one that pops in my head is EOD. Where they have the robot and the EOD guy is in a hazmat suit, far away, they find an ID, they send the robot, they disable the ID, high fives for everybody. However, any kind of teleoperation control system would require a communications platform that is robust against hacks and drop-offs and capable of operating at, and check this out, operating at 500 times a second. That's a lot. So that's fast. There's also the question of what would provide power to the mech. Wiseman envisioned the Battletech mechs being powered by a fusion reactor, but given the current fusion reactors are the size of a warehouse, this is unlikely. Those in the movie Pacific Rim can use conventional nuclear fusion reactors, which do provide a high power output, but there would be concerns over safety. Technology in battles and power density is lagging behind what is theoretically possible, said Cephew. There is research into fuel cells, but it's in fantasy in terms
Infancy.
of what it can do. Huh?
So it's infancy.
Yeah, infancy. Thank you, by the way, and no, I am not a reader. But yes, I graduated high school and didn't drop out at the 6th grade. Let me take a sip of my beer. Basically, for anybody that didn't understand a damn thing I said, long story short, as far as technology nowadays is concerned, no. Because they don't have anything big enough to power it, and they don't have a way to, as far as the weight is concerned, because if you have something high and it weighs a lot, they don't have anything to balance it out, Basically, they would put it together and it would fall apart.
Basically, you can build something as tall as a skyscraper, but it has to be stationary. It's not going to move.
Yeah. And then combine that with armor, weapons, robotic systems, so all the electrical stuff. I mean, even if they could do it, just the maintenance in one of those things alone would be outrageous. You would need a whole maintenance team just to be able to fix one of them. Let alone if you have one for every person in the military. That's just outrageous. And we just don't have the technology or the material to be able to do that. Now I'm
I
gonna go.
think if it was made and everything like that, that it would cut down on soldiers. So there would be less soldiers, and there would be more mechanics.
That is true though. But think about how much it would cost to build one of those. Now think how much it would cost to build one of those and to build one of those to replace every single soldier that's currently serving.
Probably the entire U.S. military budget.
Probably more. I mean, we're talking probably trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars.
I mean, don't you
So,
spend like 8 trillion or something?
I don't know the defense budget. Let's see. Maybe I could look it up right quick. United States defense budget. Let's see. Defense budget. All right, so the approved 2019 Department of Defense decorated budget is $686.1 billion. So yeah, and the way they break that up, it's described as 617 billion for the base budget and another 69 billion for war funding. So yeah, I mean we're talking lots of money.
Oh,
But
yeah.
we're gonna get more. Let me quickly go over this Nets article because it kind of says the same thing. So it should be really fast, and then we'll talk about the handguns.
All right.
So just quickly going over the Nets article, if I can find it and quit scrolling over it. It's from the website Space or article Space. It'll be linked in the description. And it is written by Jill Scholar in July 17th, 2013. So this one was written 3 years before the last one, and we're 4 years after the last one, just to kind of give you guys perspective. So again, and I quote from the article that will be linked, bigger isn't necessarily better, said Andy Ruya, a professor of robotics at Cornell University who specializes in loganometry. The bigger something is, whether animal or robot, the weaker it becomes proportionately to its body weight. What kind of materials would be both strong and light enough to make a giant robot? Weight is the critical issue. Steel is strong, but it's too heavy. Its strength proportionary to its weight is far weak to create a giant robot. Beluminum, I don't know how you say that word. Beryllium, however you say it, is the best choice in theory. Says, I'm just going to put his name up on the stream. Says that guy. I'm just going to call him JT. A robotics postdoctorate associate of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. But he added that the metal toxicity and cord service to human skin and in dust form can be lethal when inhaled, could pose a problem. Titanium is another alternative, as is carbon reinformed plastic. The way, weight, and strength increase with respect to size also means both animals and robots' energy needs increase extra proportionally the larger they become. So as far as few sources, even with vast improved efficiency, wouldn't be enough to move a mech more than a few steps per tank load. So they're talking about moving, a couple sets per tank load. That's a lot of fuel.
Yeah.
In terms of the scale of challenges, how festival power. All right, so basically, yeah, it's just repeating the same thing. Again, I'll link the article, and I'm not a reader. I'm sorry about butchering the names.
He failed
Don't
out of
have
reading.
don't have a degree in English. Can barely speak the damn thing. So,
Yeah, you speak American.
but I mean, hopefully, I didn't butcher it bad enough, which I don't think I did, Guns. I think that I think it got the point across.
Yeah.
So, again, in case anybody's like me and was like, "What the hell did he just say?" Again, it's the same thing as the last article, and this was 3 years before the last one. Again, they don't have fuel to be able to do it. They don't have the materials to be able to do it, and just because you build something that's big doesn't necessarily mean that proportionally it's gonna function the way you want it to without it tumbling over this and that. So, you have any questions, Guns?
No.
No. So, Guns, I think it's safe to say that this. I'm gonna let you give your conclusion on this, and then I'll give mine.
I
Based.
think currently we can't build it, but could it be in the future? Maybe. All depends what fuel source we have and what kind of metals we have.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
what are
I
your thoughts?
I pretty much agree. I think the same thing. I think that as far as right now goes, I mean, hell yeah, I think it would be really cool to have these big ass robots destroying, destroying and wrecking shit. Okay, I mean, I don't think any man would disagree. That would be so cool to jump in one of those robots and just wreak havoc across whatever came your way. I
Yeah,
mean, imagine being, working for Solcom and you're given the chance to jump in one of these things and go wreak havoc in Syria and, fuck up some ISIS members. I think any man, any American would be gladly willing to do that, but we just don't have the technology and the resources to be able to do it. And then, even if they did, it comes down to budgeting. I mean, as I read, I closed it out, but if I remember, it was like, oh, shit, I forgot already. What did I say? 680, $1 billion for the defense budget.
yeah,
In 2019, something like that.
yeah.
I mean, is that going to be enough to, build a squadron of those? I mean, I don't know. I don't know
But
how,
again,
how much.
depends what materials and what power source it has.
I mean, those are going to be the two biggest factors.
Because
Then you
depending
still
on
need.
the my
Well, yeah, but
material and
yeah,
the power. That's how. That's the biggest factors. How it's
hey, yeah. But then, I mean, even after you build it, you you still you still question like, okay, how much maintenance would one of them be? You know, like
yeah,
how many people do we need working on this? Because you would need somebody. You need somebody to basically like a welder to be able to weld back, the metals and stuff in case it gets broken. Then you need
yeah,
like an electrician to be able to put all the electrical stuff back together. And then you
yeah,
need like it just then you need this person, you need that person, you need this person, you need that person.
yeah,
Uh, I don't know. I mean, I think I think you're right, and I think one day we will eventually have one, but it just comes down to the fact of when is that going to be, and as far as that's concerned, it's not going to be anytime, soon.
Will it be like 3 years from like 300?
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. So, but I know the world and technology are improving every day. So, I mean, I don't know. Uh, maybe one day. Maybe one day. I mean, like I
Yeah,
said at the beginning of my part, they have amazing exosuits that are already being tested and developed and used for prosthetics and all this stuff. So maybe we'll get the cool giant robots. We'll be like real steel and we'll go build a robot and bots and bet on each other. But as far as that's concerned, I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon. You know, not within the next 10 years.
yeah. Unless
So
something, uh,
unless something
could
drastically happens, is that what you're gonna say?
just think, right? 1914, there was no conception of a tank. I
Yeah.
think it was 19. It was 1960 is when the first tank and produced. It scared the hell out of that. So, like,
Yeah. I mean, that's a fair point. I mean, yeah, tanks weren't around then. But I mean, then again, I mean,
the reason
it,
tanks were made is so they could get over the trenches and keep pushing.
hmm
So,
I mean, yeah, that's very true. It's very true. So I don't know. I think
World War III comes along, we're gonna have,
yeah. Been waiting for World War III for a while, so
yeah.
you know. I think you know what? Never mind. I'm not gonna say that. I'll get with you off camera about that, guns. But let's just say I don't want to get my ass in trouble. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe not. But we yeah, we want to know what you guys think and love to hear recommendations for the next one. Do you think that we'll have fucking awesome fighting robots, mechs, nightmares in near future or in the, maybe when I'm old and decrepit and, pooping in a diaper, give us your thoughts. Guns, you want to send the people home?
Well, this has been Gun United. I'm Gun. This is Crater. And keep your beers cold, your ammo. See you next time.
All right, have a good one.